Welcome to After the Buzzers Sports Podcast, the show that's all about sports and the African American athlete. Let's go.
Good evening, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. As always, I'm your man, Marvin Orange. By my side, I got Mr. Lee Jones, Mr. LP, always making things tight for us in the background. And of course, last but never least, Miss Raquel, MR, MR Thomas, always bringing us the knowledge. So, everybody kind of sit back, relax. I hope you got a drink in your hand. I hope you're enjoying your day off. Hopefully, everybody's off of work. We got some good topics that we're going to touch today. So let's just kind of skim through them real quick. Cam Newton signed with the New England Patriots on Sunday. What do you guys think this does for the Patriots in the 2020 football season? I know a lot of people have opinion about that, so we'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Richard Sherman, he also calls Cam Newton's deal with the New England Patriots disgusting. He did sign the league minimum. So we'd be interested to hear what you guys think in reference to other quarterbacks who may have signed bigger contracts over the this offseason. I think it's a good debate for us to kind of talk about. We're going to revisit one from last week that we know was a little bit hot. We didn't really get to touch it the way we wanted to, but who you got? Yeah, we got to get back into this. We got Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or any other young quarterback that you guys think might be in the mix. But who do you guys have, and who do you want to start an NFL franchise with at this point? Another big thing in the news right now, Antonio Brown. You know, he's always controversial on bringing up some things in the news, but he's got some interest. It looks like Seattle, Baltimore Ravens. I think there might be a few other teams in the mix that are looking to possibly sign him. Do you guys think he's worth the risk? What do you think he brings to the table at this point of his career? Let's have some discussion on that and hear what you guys think. Also, the NBA and the NBPA is going to allow players to wear jerseys with personalized social justice, social causes, charity messages on their jerseys. Do you guys think this is a good idea? What kind of attention do you think this is going to draw to some of the social issues that we have going on today? So this will be interesting to hear what the guys think about this and the young lady, of course. The NBA is reportedly planning to paint Black Lives Matters on the court sidelines of NBA games. Or in the bubble that they're in Orlando. What do you guys think about that? Do you think it's going to be a good message? What kind of weight do you think that will pull? Also, this is very important, something that happened here recently. The Mississippi House and Senate passed a vote to remove the Confederate emblem from the state flag. The governor said that he will sign the bill into law. That's a big deal, so I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about this in terms of turning the corner, maybe turning the page on some of the sordid past that Mississippi has. Also, Kansas State football players want to boycott or have started to boycott football-related activities unless the university takes action against the student who put out a pretty controversial tweet about George Floyd. What do you guys think about this? I know they want to create some policies and have the student expelled for his openly racist and threatening comments. Do you think that that's necessary, and what do you think may come from this? And lastly, on June 15th, an attorney for two current football players filed a federal antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA and Power Five conferences about name, image, and likeness, and also damages based on the NCAA currently having NIL rules in place where student athletes aren't allowed to get their television rights, social media earnings that the players may have received if this wasn't in place. So we'd love to hear what you guys may think about that as well. Seems like the NCAA is slowly maybe moving in the right direction, but maybe they need a little bit of a push. So let's get it moving. Let's get it popping. First topic, we got Cam Newton. Always controversial outside of the stuff he decides to wear in post-game press conferences. But we're going to talk about Cam Newton signing with the New England Patriots right now. What do you guys think about that? Is that a good move for New England? Does this rejuvenate Cam's career? Let's start with you, Lee, because I know you got a lot to say about this. So get us started off with that fire, man. What you think about this?
Well, first of all, I think for Cam, you know, the thing that bothers me so much is the injustice that Carolina did to Cam. I'm just going to throw that out there right off the bat. When you release the man as late as they released him, that's problematic because it didn't give him an opportunity to go out and really shop himself the way he normally would have been able to do. And of course, the coronavirus hurt Carolina that really bothers me. But saying that and saying all of that, I think he couldn't have picked a better spot than New England I mean, New England, Jarrett Stidham, Brian Hoyer, that's your competition. The system that I think that they'll run going forward with Cam fits what they like to do: run the football, play good defense. The receiving core is kind of limited. Mohamed Sanu, N'Keal Henry, not household names, right? So they're going to run the football a lot, play good defense, run Cam a lot, do a lot of play action, which Cam throws the ball well down the field, 15, 20 intermediate passes is excellent for Cam. So the fit for Cam and the fit for New England, I think that it's perfect for each other. And so I if you're going to have to go to somebody and go at this late time, I think Cam couldn't have fell into a better position on where he went to play. And so I think it's sort of a marriage made in heaven, and Cam can go in, perform at a high level, and then go back out on the market and get paid in 2021.
Yeah, very, very good points. Raquel, what are your thoughts about this with Cam going to New England?
I agree with Lee almost 100%. I hate how
What?
Carolina.
There you go. You're coming. You're getting close. You're getting close, Raquel. You're getting close.
You can tell people getting ready to get off of the week, boy. She's starting to agree with Lee.
I hate how Carolina released him. I think they put him in a bad situation, number one, because they released him entirely too late. And I think it was something that certainly could have been avoided, but I think it was very much so intentional on behalf of the Panthers. So I don't really respect that front office much because they're playing with his livelihood, number one. Number two, I think the Patriots got the best deal all around. I mean, they have nothing to lose. They put themselves in a win-win situation. I think Cam will go in and play great football there. And for Cam, he's going under a coach, one of the greatest coaches of all times, and that matters. That matters in every sport. I don't care what sport you play. To go in and play for a coach as such, I think is a power move for him, a power move for the Patriots. I think you'll see the Patriots run the ball. I don't think they have a good receiver. So I don't know how effective Cam will be throwing the ball as he was in Carolina, but you'll see Cam run, and we know that's what he does. So I'm happy for Cam. I'm super excited that he signed. Don't really like the dollars on the deal, but I think he has a full season to prove himself. And as a friend said to me on yesterday, Cam is betting on himself, and I agree with that 110%. Yeah. And when you are confident in who you are and your ability, why not? You know what? I can stand to make $1 million, no problem. I'm not hurting financially. Let me show you what I'm worth, and I think he'll get on the field and show and prove. So I'm super excited for Cam. I'm super excited that he's putting on that Patriots uniform this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to piggyback off you guys. What's there not to be excited about? You know, Cam Newton, Bill Belichick. I think Josh McDaniel is still there as the offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. He's very ingenious in some of the things that he brings up as an offensive coordinator. You know, Bill Belichick is going to protect Cam the best that he can. They have a great offensive line. I mean, they won 12 games last year. So it's not like he's going into a situation where he's got to be Superman. I think you're going to see some added versatility to that offense that, of course, Brady just couldn't bring. They do have a strong running game. I think Sony Michel is coming back. You got Damian Harris maybe getting in the mix from University of Alabama. So I don't really see what the downside of this is. You know, the league minimum with some incentives. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I like the move. I think it's a win-win for both sides. The only thing I get a little bit hesitant about is, and I think both of you brought this up, was the lack of skill players in terms of receivers. I don't know where that's going to leave them, especially when you get into games with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and you got to put up some points. You know, that's going to – because they're going to score. And Cam is what? He's a mid-50% passer over his career. I think he had that 2018 or 19 season where he started off in the 60s. But, that's just kind of what you're going to get from Cam. But I agree with both of you. I'm excited to see what comes from this. And I'm glad that Cam is getting with a Hall of Fame coach because I think this is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Yep. If you look at how they won 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl, Marvin, when they went in the playoffs, they were strictly a running team. I mean, they pounded the ball at you. That's what they're going to be most of this year. They did a lot of play action and go down the field. I mean, the receivers are not trash, but just not how Philip Dorsett, I think, is in there as well. So a lot of play action, a lot of you'll probably see them do a lot of 2 tight end sets as well. Work the middle of the field. So it's a winning formula because they've done it in the past. And then you throw Cam in there, the extra with the running and the threat of running. I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in a contender.
I tell you what, Antonio Brown would have held on just a moment.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not over yet. We were talking about that for a minute.
But if he had on a Patriots jersey, he was released. So he did have a Patriots jersey at one point, and I think to see him and Cam play together would have been spectacular.
Okay,
yeah, it would have been fun to watch, but we'll keep that moving. We'll see if that may happen down the line.
And we actually have a comment. We actually have a comment from YouTube from Kevin Banks, and he says, "I think the move is good for the Patriots, but I do think Cam has to take some responsibility for the way things ended in Carolina. Perhaps being in New England with Belichick will help him mature as a leader." And then Ivan West says, "As a Panthers fan, I hated how he was released. Rooting for him, since I don't expect much from Carolina. He's what I got my eye on."
Kevin, I don't get what you're talking about, brother. I don't feel that, because I mean, what did Cam do? And I heard a couple other people say that about Cam. I never saw Cam, and correct me if I'm wrong, when did Cam act out as a Carolina Panther? When did he get in trouble with the league? When did he get arrested? When all you saw Cam do was wear different clothes and maybe the hairdo, which I think he needs to do something there right now. Come on, Cam. But I feel you, brother. You're working hard. You're working hard to get it back. But see, that narrative to me, it falls right in line with our next topic about Paymar. When they say he's a malcontent, he did this and that. I don't recall Cam doing anything but handing little kids footballs in the end zone when he scores. And so Kevin, you know, I love you, but I just don't buy that. I don't buy that one.
Well, Kevin has rebutted, and what he says was,
I agree with that. Cam, fans loved him there. I can't think of one thing he did either, other than he got a little crazy, a little metrosexual-ish. But that's okay. That's not a.
Raquel, you've been to Paris. You know the deal. He bringing it back over across the water. He all right.
And actually,
let's hear Kevin's rebuttal.
Yeah, Kevin has a rebuttal. He says he was moody when things didn't go the way he wanted.
Who isn't? What superstar isn't moody?
Right.
Yeah, and he didn't have a lot of help either. I would have been moody too with some of that trash I was playing with in Carolina. So come on, man. I mean, come on, Kevin. You should be used to that. I know you're a Redskins fan. You used to trash. Yeah, so I know. You should understand.
Trash there. So come on, yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
But that gives us a nice little segue into the second part of this. Our next question or statement from Richard Sherman, talking about Cam Newton's deal with the New England Patriots, basically calling it disgusting. He signed for the league minimum, and he was comparing it to what Cam's done. He's been a former MVP. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about this deal? Give me your thoughts about that, Raquel.
Yeah, I kind of closed on that on the first question. I think the deal is disgusting as well. I would have liked to see Cam get more money, but you know what? It is what it is. He's been out a full season. He's coming off an injury, and I do think it's a safe bet for him to bet on himself. And sometimes we know this as Black men and women, that we often have to bet on ourselves. We don't go through the door with the opportunities that the others go through the door with. So we are accustomed to that. So I don't think he's a stranger, coming out of Auburn. He had to do the same thing. If you remember his college career, he had to bet on himself. They counted him out at one point when he was playing in college. So it's unfortunate. I don't like the money on this deal, but I like Cam's attitude, and I like that he took the money because he's certainly betting on himself. So I'm excited for the brother. I'm super excited. I can't wait to see him on the field.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out here before you go, Lee, because I know you're gonna hit us with some stats here. But I agree, Raquel. I think him betting on himself is always the best thing, and I think he's going into a situation where he can play himself in the kind of money that he deserves. But let some of this sink in real quick. Chase Daniel, y'all know Chase Daniel, second stringer for 7 years. He got a 2-3 record, I think, as a starter. He signed 2 years for $13.5 million, and he got a $2 million signing bonus. Okay. Taysom Hill, the guy from New Orleans, he's a third stringer. He behind Jameis Winston right now. He signed for 2 years, $16 million. You got Marcus Mariota that went to the Raiders, second stringer. He backing up Derek Carr right now. He got 2 years for $8.8 million. Something don't smell right. I mean, I get it. I get the business of it because there is a flip side to it with Cam. I mean, I think, he missed 14 games last year in 2019. He's got a growing list of injuries over the years because of the way he plays. I get it, but he is a former MVP. I mean, he's someone who's led a franchise to a Super Bowl. He's been everything for Carolina at the time that he was there. So that's hard for me to swallow seeing some of these numbers. Either Cam is woefully underpaid or these second stringers are overpaid. And I think we know the answer to that. But, he'll play himself into what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Landre, you got something?
Yeah, the only thing that I have was that Ivan West said everyone who played with Cam backs him. So I think that's an important point to keep in mind.
Yeah.
That's an important point, Ivan.
I'll say this though, from a New England, because I agree with everything everything that you guys said as far as the backup quarterbacks and the money that they make. That's a travesty. Chase Daniels, you named it off. Case Keenum, all these guys, these trash quarterbacks have been making money all this time as backup, $4 to $6 million. So Marvin, you and Raquel are right on point with the travesty of it. The biggest travesty of it for me is that you think about Ben Roethlisberger, right? Ben is coming off a season where he played one game, tore his elbow, had to get Tommy John surgery. So he's just as injured as Cam, and he's just as bad off as far as what he's going to be next year. You don't hear people talking about, well, we don't know what Ben is going to do next year. Everybody's praising Ben. Now, I saw all of the videos on Instagram. Cam looked great.
Yes, he does.
You always look great when you throw it against shadows, though. I mean, you always look great when you're doing that.
That's just throwing the football,
that's
though.
The same thing Ben's throwing against, though. Ben's throwing against shadows in the air, too. So that's what I'll say. The other thing I'll say, from a New England perspective, you can only give them what your salary cap has to give, right? And so it's a great deal for them. I just think the lack of interest from other teams says a lot about the state of mind of the NFL. And I think New England got a bargain, but in the end, I think Cam's going to come out ahead. Lamondre, do we have a caller?
We do have a caller. Caller, you are on the air with After the Buzzers Sports Podcast.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, team. This is Vincent.
Come on.
Well, look. Hey, look. What? I had to call in and say hello to Raquel. And by the way, Lee and Marvin, you guys, hello, okay? But this is a very good topic, and the thing is, my fellow Stanford graduate Richard Sherman is 100% correct. When you look at the optics of this, this is, look beyond everything else, because you all are all right, and he ended up in the right place. New England, he's betting on himself. All of that is all great, but Cam shouldn't have to bet on himself. He shouldn't have to bet on himself. He's in a position where, as a starting quarterback, as a former MVP, he shouldn't have to bet on himself. Lee, you mentioned Ben Roethlisberger. There have been other great examples, and if you look at Andrew Luck, Andrew Luck was out 2015, the 2015 season. He was out, shoulder injury, lacerated kidney, and right after that, he signed his huge contract. Look at the fact that Jameis Winston and Cam Newton, two starters in this league forever, both of them signed for league minimums. That's a disgrace. I mean, just as Richard Sherman said, that's a disgrace. A minimum for a quarterback in this league with the pedigree that Cam Newton has should have been $10 million at a drop-dead minimum. A couple of years ago, Jay Cutler was sitting on a bar having a drink, and Miami called him up and gave him $10 million. That's just a bargain basement price for a quarterback with the pedigree that Cam Newton has. So Cam is going to do well. He's going to have a great year, and then he's going to sign a big contract. But it goes back to, we always have to prove ourselves. And we as black people, we always have to prove ourselves. And that shouldn't be in this case, because this guy has proven himself. And it should have been a minimum $10 million for any team to sign him. So Richard Sherman is exactly right. And from an optics standpoint, it's disgusting. We're happy for him. We love it. We're going to root for him. But for that guy to sign for $1 million with a bunch of incentives tied onto it, when Taysom Hill and Chase Daniels and every backup quarterback in the league making more than that, it is disgusting. Thanks, guys.
Said earlier, it doesn't make sense, and we are always in a position that we have to prove ourselves. Period. I don't know one thing that I've received in my corporate career, in my entrepreneur career, in my athletic career that was given to me. I remember going on to play in college and having someone play in front of me for about 120 seconds. Her name was called, but she didn't play really the entire game because she was a senior. We are always in that position. And the one thing that the guys have in common that don't get the dollars is they're black. And one thing that the guys have in common that are getting the dollars, they're white. That comes with the NFL. And the NFL, I'll say this 100 times, is a true representation of the country we live in.
I knew Vincent was going to get us started. But you're right on this topic. I know we have another caller, don't we?
We do have another caller, and we also have a comment from YouTube. The comment from YouTube, real quick, says Major League Baseball is playing a shortened season. Should Major League Baseball and the NBA combine their wins and make a trophy for the highest wins for the best city? That was the question from YouTube. And
Amadra, you broke up. Could you say the question again from YouTube?
Yeah, I said, since Major League Baseball is playing a shortened season, should Major League Baseball and the NBA combine their wins and make a trophy for the highest wins for the best city? That's the question from YouTube.
Okay.
All right.
YouTube,
yeah.
I'm going to say this. Thank you for sending in your comments. You got to stop drinking, though, before you put the comment. You can't continue drinking. You got to put the drink down, and then
it's 7 o'clock
before you start the comment.
All right, let's go ahead and admit the call. Caller, you are on the air with After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. Please state your name and go ahead.
All right, guys, it's Kevin.
What's up, Cam?
What's up, Mr. Banks?
Hey, listen, I don't disagree with what Vincent said and what you all are saying. Cam is a great quarterback. I'm going to say this, that Cam has been trending down. And with the way that his last season ended, and I'm going to say in some cases, to me, it looked like he said, well, screw the team, I'm not playing. And when you trend down, don't have any games, sometimes, especially as a black athlete, You have to come back and prove yourself. I'm going to be cheering for him. And I can tell you, Karen will be cheering for him because she loves Cam Newton. But all I'm saying is that when I said Cam sometimes has to take some responsibility, is as a leader of a team, he did not exemplify what you expect in a leader when things didn't go well. When he talked to the press and when he was on the field, it is not as elite as some of the elite quarterbacks that you just mentioned. I'm just saying that. But because I think Cam is an incredible quarterback, I expect and I hope that he does well and is able to then turn his career around and end it in the way that I think he wants to be able to do it. But he's got a lot. New England's got holes, and he's going to get hit again. And he can't act the way he did in Carolina and in New England. Belichick will bench him.
But here, Kevin, I want to ask you a question, Kevin, because you said that. So this is my question. We always say this about black quarterbacks, though. It's he didn't exemplify, what we want in a leader, and he didn't do things the right way. But let's just take an example from New England and Tom Brady when he go off on the sidelines on Josh McDaniel, and he basically cussing out everybody on the sideline, and then you know what they say about him? Oh, he's so passionate about the game.
He's a leader.
Well, hey, listen, man. Listen, I absolutely agree. But I'm going to talk to you about somebody that had a leg injury just like Cam did, Patrick Mahomes. The way that he acted and the way he was on the sideline, injured, couldn't play, but if he could play, there's a difference. Cam had some bizarre behavior, and the NFL needs more minority owners that are in there. But right now, with the way that the league is, Cam did not help himself with the way that he was trending down in Carolina. That's my opinion.
I cannot hear trending down again because I got it. And Marv, I got it, man. I got it. It's always up here. Look, Cam's
listen, man. It went from the Super Bowl and his behavior after the Super Bowl to the next year, a little bit less. But the last year, I mean, he literally, to me, he was like, I'm tired. Hey, he got no protection. He was getting hit, but I just didn't think that was the way that it should have.
Last year, Cam only played one game, so we're going to throw it out there. The year prior to that, 2018, right? He played the first 8 games of the season. Cam was completing 67.
Lee was talking so loud, we lost him.
Yeah, I think
I lost him. I couldn't hear I didn't hear what he said. Listen, guys, I'm going to be rooting for Cam because, listen, I root for every African-American quarterback that's out there in the league.
Absolutely.
Because I think that they can actually – I mean, I think they're the best athletes that are out there, and I think it's already been shown that they can take a team to the Super Bowl and win and be the most valuable player. So I'm cheering for Cam. I'm just saying Cam is going to have to buck up with Bill Belichick because he's not going to be able to behave the way he did in Carolina and New England.
Bill Belichick is in love with Cam Newton. Cam Newton
good.
Twice. If you've heard the comments of Bill Belichick talking about Cam, he said he's the most dangerous quarterback out there when he played against him. Bill Belichick loved the fact, 2 things, that he got Cam and he got him so cheap. But Kevin, your comments about trending down has absolutely no merit from the point of view of his play because
listen, I'm talking about I'm talking about his behavior. And if Bill Belichick loved him that much, why did he give him only $1.5 million?
Can you let me speak? He allowed you to speak.
No, look, your comment about trending down to me has absolutely no merit, Kevin, because
I'm talking about his behavior.
His career prior to injury, and all of this stuff, I agree with Marv. Our black quarterbacks got to stand and salute at attention every time they play. They have to salute at attention because we can't show any emotion or we're being a malcontent. But these white guys can cuss and spit at you and push the receivers down and do all of this stuff. And they're considered leaders. That's ridiculous, man. I can't go with that.
Hey, Lee, I'm only going to say the only way that you can change that is you got to stand up there and do your job and
I think our black
hey,
Kevin.
the bottom line is that I'm just saying that's the way. I mean, if you go out there and pout and throw your helmet on the ground, then they're probably going to say, "Well, just sit on the sideline and we'll give you to somebody else."
I ain't never seen Cam Newton throw his helmet on the ground. I've seen him be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback for the majority of his career, though.
Hey, Kevin, we certainly do appreciate the call, man. We got
Thank
another
you.
call coming.
All
All
right,
right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kevin.
And we got it, but I tell you, I told y'all this drinking before you call or something else.
We've got another call waiting, and we have a comment from Facebook from Ivan West. He said, Cam got yanked. He never took himself out. All right, and so now we're going to go ahead and go to the caller. Caller, you are on the air with After the Buzzer Sport Podcast. Please say your name and
Teddy Keaton.
all right, wonderful. How you doing?
Coach Keaton, can you turn the volume down a little, Coach?
Now,
I turned it down.
What's up, Coach?
What's going on, Lee?
Before Coach speaks, I do need to tell everybody congratulations are in order. He and his wife just had a beautiful young baby boy. So I do want everybody to congratulate him. But I know he wasn't calling in for that. So go ahead, Coach.
Yes, I wanted to eat what you, Lee. I don't. What you talking about, Kevin? You sound like a fan. I wanted to put my Shannon Sharp on and drink some Hennessy and smoke a Black and Mild when I heard you talk about that. He's a quarterback. I want my quarterback to have emotions, but as Lee stated, for so long we have to stand at a certain attention. We got to salute. We got to do everything right. We can't kneel for the national anthem. We can't stand for nothing. I can name 1,000. Peyton Manning, I mean, he cussed the coach out on the sideline. These guys do everything they want to do and still sign $10 million contracts. Cam was shortchanged, but it's been the history of the Patriots. They got a great quarterback for a bargain deal, and they're going to buy him, and they're going to ride his back to where they can get where they got to go, and then they'll cut him loose. And believe me, Belichick's no dummy. He picked up a great quarterback, got him for a cheap price, and you can't hate the game. You can't hate the player. You got to hate the game. But at the end of the day, I couldn't stand. I mean, Kevin, you're my friend. I love you. But there's no way that I'll ever accept. You sound like a fan. I would never accept a kid that don't have no emotions or no balls, just like LeBron James or anybody else. When they're emotional, they're competitive, they're going to come and they're going to bring it every weekend. And Cam has done that consistently throughout his career. And when he suffered in Carolina is when they didn't have no O-line blocking for him and he wasn't getting the things that he needed. And then they put a running back, which I can't take away from McCaffrey. He's good. The running back was really good. They started featuring the running back a little bit more, and that's why they got rid of Cam. They put so many restrictions on Cam when he got there that he couldn't even interview or say anything, because that's why he started acting out and dressing the way he was acting, because they had basically told him, shut up and dribble.
Yep. And
Very good point.
They changed the face of the organization. You just said it. They went from Cam as the face, giving the football to the kids, loving that, to McCaffrey, the young white running back, and there's nothing wrong with McCaffrey. I love him, but he's the new face of Carolina.
Coach King, thank you so much for the call.
Thank you.
And we actually
Appreciate it, Coach.
We actually have another caller waiting. Caller, you are on the air with After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. Please state your name and you are live. Caller?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead with your comment.
Buddy?
You got a question? Comment?
Andre, bad connection.
Yeah.
Oh, you there?
Yo.
Go ahead with your comment. Your comment or your question.
Yo, folks, this Lee Marv, this Ivan, what's up?
What's happening, Ivan? What's happening?
What's going on?
What's going on?
I didn't hear the last comment because I was on the line, but I heard Kev, so just gonna respond to that real quick. One, Cam got yanked. You hear me?
Did.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
I was just gonna respond to Kev. I didn't hear the last comment.
But go ahead, make your comment.
So Cam actually got yanked. It's not that he didn't play. It's not that he didn't want to play. He just got yanked after he got injured. So it's like for him to say that he wasn't leading, dude played at 60% for half a season.
Absolutely.
But he played at 60%
I think he
for half a
played
season.
with a total cuff at one point.
Yeah.
All right.
You have anything else?
And that was it, fellas. That was it. I just wanted to respond to Kel. We'll talk about this eventually again. I just want to put my little staff on it.
Tell Kevin, make sure he puts down the Hennessy, man. We can't have that on the show. We're alcohol-free show, man. We're alcohol-free show.
If I know he probably drinking some Elijah Craig right now, so he probably don't got the Hennessy. He probably got some Elijah Craig, but he need to put it down though. So let's move on. Let's revisit the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson debate.
Oh yeah.
The best young quarterback, and who would you start your franchise with? I know it got a little bit heated last week, and we didn't really get a chance to dive into this the way that we wanted to. So, Coach Keaton, I really would be interested to hear what you think about this as well. But let's go. I mean, where are we going with this, Raquel? Who you got?
I'm going Lamar Jackson, just as I did.
Hey, you stick with Lamar?
Just as I did last week. I think he's a more dynamic player. We can go over stats again. I don't see the point, but the kid threw 33 touchdowns. He was the league leader. Yes, Marv, he didn't go to the Super Bowl, but Mahomes played like SHIT. He kind of pulled it off at the end, but that's here or there. He still won the Super Bowl, and I like Mahomes. But if I want to start my team, I just think Lamar has more pieces to the puzzle that I like, and I think that can win games. In all honesty, so I'm going to stick with Lamar Jackson. That's my guy. That's my son's guy. And I like Mahomes, but if I had to build a team today, I just think Lamar Jackson gives me more pieces to the puzzle when it comes to winning.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a Lamar fan. I love what he does. He's dynamic. I haven't seen anything like him since probably Michael Vick. I mean, he has definitely transcended the game in terms of what he does at the quarterback position. But listen, like the old adage goes, defense wins championships and defense travels. So does arm talent. Okay? And I mean, look. If I'm starting a franchise and I need longevity and I need somebody I can build on for 12 to 16 years, that arm ain't going nowhere. Okay? He can sit back and sling that thing for 12 to 15 years and his game don't change at all. I don't know if I can get that from Lamar for that period of time to build a franchise around. I love the kid. I love to watch him play. He's exciting. But am I just going to get 4 to 5 years of this? Or am I going to get 12 to 15 years of this? I don't know. So if it's me, I've seen Mahomes win. I've seen him bring his team back against the greatest quarterback arguably of all time in Tom Brady in a playoff game when everything was on the line. I've seen him come back in the second half and play like SHIT, as y'all say, in the first half and come back and lead his team. I don't care if the guy was wide open. He still had to make the throw. So the bottom line is we've seen him do it. So I've got a body of work that I've seen. And that arm, I don't care what nobody say, that arm can go. He can sling that rock.
And I wanted a quarter, I think the question is a little bit different. I'm talking about right now, starting my franchise right now. I'm not thinking about 10 years from now. So if I'm thinking about it's okay, maybe. But the question is, Marvin, I love you. You know I love you. The question is start. I'm starting with a dynamic guy on the field that can throw the ball and run the ball. But, you make a good point with Mahomes and, 10 years, he has an old-fashioned traditional game. So, yeah, he's going to throw the football. But when I think about just starting my team, I'm looking at all the pieces to the puzzle. And Lamar is just more dynamic.
I mean, if we talking about starting, I'm going to start it with a Super Bowl champion. So, boom, there it is. That's how I'm going to start it. So, go ahead, Lee.
Well, And Mark, look, I'm not saying you don't have valid points because you do, and I like Patrick Mahomes, but I certainly agree with Raquel because first of all, the threat, the new wave quarterback. When you look at all of the young quarterbacks, all of them are black, all of them, and Mahomes has ability to run. He's certainly not as dynamic as Jackson. But let me say this, Marv. The ultimate dual threat, and I'll say this, and I'll put it out there. Callers, please call in if you feel that I'm wrong. He's a better version of Michael Vick, as I've said. But let's go back to arm talent. You keep talking about arm talent. Well, let's talk about it. Completion percentage. That's arm talent, right? So last year, I'm going to go off of just last year's stats. I'm going to throw a couple of them out there. Patrick Mahomes, 65.9. Lamar, 66.1. So completion percentage, we put the check in Lamar's box, right? We
don't forget about number of attempts. Don't make your stats conveniently. You make it convenient now. You make it convenient for your argument. Let's throw attempts in here.
Touchdowns, Marv. Touchdowns. Lamar 30. Lamar 33, Patrick Mahomes 26. So he's doing something, right? Because he had one touchdown. Quarterback rating. That takes into all the things, completion percentage, passing down, all of that stuff, Mark.
113, Lamar Jackson.
113.8. 1.3 for Lamar, 105.3 for Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm confused here. Ultimate quarterback rating last year. Patrick Mahomes, 80.4. Lamar, 81.8. So when you talk about playing the position of quarterback, and we're talking about, we're not even including his running. We're talking about just throwing the football. And almost every statistical category, Lamar was better than Patrick Mahomes last year. And then, Lord have mercy, we threw 1,206 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns, number 6 in the league in rushing. Mark, it's not even a debate in my opinion.
You are missing one very important stat. Zilch playoff wins.
He's only played in playoff games.
Okay. And he's 0-2. So if he's so dynamic, if he's the man I gotta have, to me, it comes down to winning playoff games and winning championships. Them numbers sound great. Them numbers are great. They're beautiful. I love them.
Let me ask you this, Mark. Mahomes didn't win the Super Bowl. Would you feel the same? Because that's what you're writing.
Absolutely. I feel the same. Patrick Mahomes to me is just a franchise. I don't care. I don't care about the MVP, man. That's a regular season trophy. Good. That's a good.
In that loss last year,
in the Super Bowl did what? Take the Super Bowl. Take the Super Bowl away, and let's just look at the players. Take the Super Bowl away.
I've seen him. I saw him bring his team back against the best quarterback in history and win a playoff game to get to the Super Bowl. I've seen that.
150 years old. He ain't the best quarterback anymore, and they did lose that game.
Listen, man. Listen. You know, I love your verve. I love how you know. I love that y'all love Lamar. But come on, man.
356 yards passing.
I love Mahomes.
And 143 yards rushing. That has never been done before in a playoff game. I have it here, Mark, but I don't want to seem arrogant if I name off the rest of his historical statistics. But he's the first person to ever throw for 300 yards and rush for 100 yards in a playoff game. It's so many statistics. And remember this, it's his first year start. Patrick Mahomes has 2 years of starting. He's been in the league. His first year of starting, this man is doing that.
But you know what the NFL has a way of doing it. Some of my boys that play in the league will tell you this all the time. You know, that I've got in the NFL, that play in the NBA. You can always have one-hit wonders because you know what happens? Because we ain't got no film on you. We don't have tape. We don't have. Give me a year to game plan against you. If he does it again next year, if he wins,
bad weather.
He's going to win the MVP this year, Marv, as well.
Well, can he win a playoff game? Can he win a playoff game?
Well, he's not. Look, the only reason he's not going to win the Super Bowl this year, I'm sorry, the Cowboys will win the Super Bowl this year, but he's going to make it.
All right.
He's going to make it.
It's time to move on.
Okay, but listen.
I need to hear some callers on
Listen.
this. I need to hear some callers because I want to hear some comments on this.
So we do have a comment from Kevin, and so Marvin, you've actually got some backup. Kevin Banks says, "I agree with Marvin. Patrick Mahomes has done it more years than Lamar, even if it's just one more year."
Well, let's talk about the last year who played. Let's talk about last year. Who was the better quarterback last year, Marv?
Patrick Mahomes. He won a Super Bowl.
Oh my God!
They were the better team.
Marv does not care about that.
So Baltimore didn't have a great team last year?
They had a great team, but Kansas City as a team was better. They're the Super Bowl champions. That's all I can say. But let's go off of individuals because that's what the MVP is for. Who was the best player? And it certainly was Lamar Jackson.
Well, we will agree to disagree. And the great thing about it is we got a season coming up, and we can debate this all season. With my boy Patrick Mahomes put all this to rest.
Yeah. And hey, I like Patrick. Callers, if you got an opinion, call in. I want to hear some of your callers on this. Marv needs some help.
But Kevin did say, Lee, that was not the question.
As I said, Cam, I don't know what it is. I don't know but you got to drink down. Bottom line, Kevin. Bottom line is who had the better season. If anybody can come on here right now and say that Patrick Mahomes' season was better than Lamar Jackson's, hell, I watch everybody's cars.
Listen, here's the beauty of this.
There's no argument there. I mean, it's in black and white. It's ludicrous to keep going back and forth about that. I want to hear everybody's opinion, but the stats don't lie. They are what they are.
You're right, stats don't lie. But here's the beauty of this debate. We're going to get to see this play out over the next year. So we'll come back to that in just a little bit, all right? So let's move on. We got Antonio Brown. He's drawing interest from the Seattle Seahawks, Baltimore Ravens. I think it's been a few other teams that have been interested in signing him. Is it worth it? Is the risk versus the reward that you're getting from I think he's 32 at this point, a 32-year-old wide receiver. What do you guys think? Is this worth it for any team? Raquel?
Man. So, I mean, obviously I'm going with the Ravens, and I'll be with the Ravens all season. I think he could add a great I don't trust the guy. He is such a wild card. He scares me. I don't want him to, if I could put him on the Ravens team and he didn't come with all the baggage, the rape, the sexual assault, the misconduct, all the things that comes with this guy. If those things didn't come with him, it would be a no-brainer for me. Yes, we'll take him on the Ravens. I think he could add to what we have going on. Certainly make it a bit easier for us to get into the Super Bowl. But he does scare me. When I look at his stats, I mean, they're undeniable. Pittsburgh covered up his mess for a long time. And if you can't play under one of us, you can imagine the headache that comes with this guy because Pittsburgh covered up a lot. They pulled him out of some situations, hid some situations. They took care of him, I think, as best as they could. But the truth of the matter is he's such a wild card, and it could damage a team versus build a team. And I don't know if any Super Bowl contender wants to take that risk. I don't know if it's worth it or not, but if he didn't come with all the baggage, all the issues, all the foolery, I would love to see him put on a Raven jersey. I would love to see Lamar throw the ball toward that guy. 75, touchdowns, well over 11,000 yards. But he scares me. I don't know if it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's no denying the skill. I mean, the things that he's done in his NFL career on the field. I mean, it's non-debatable. Just like Patrick Mahomes being the best quarterback, it's not debatable. But but he's gonna have to get into a situation if it were to happen where you got to have a quarterback with some cachet. And to me, the only place that would make sense would be Seattle. I think Russell Russell Wilson demands the respect of that team, that organization. He has the cachet. The coach is a coach that probably could handle personality like Antonio Brown. So if there's any situation where that could work, and could you imagine Antonio Brown with DJ Metcalf and the other kid from Kansas State? I can't recall his name right now. That Tyler Lockett. That would be a scary combination. But let me just say a couple things here. I mean, just listen to this. He Facebook Live from a locker room when he was with the Steelers, right? He threw furniture off the 14th floor of the 14th floor window and almost hit I think it was a young 2-year-old child. Lawsuit was pending about that. He was driving down 100 miles an hour down the suburban highway. The Steelers, this is the biggest thing to me right here. The Steelers ate more than $20 million in dead cap space just to get rid of him. I mean, if that don't tell you all you need to know about Antonio Brown, I don't know what does. And even though the most alarming one to me is just recently, the Hollywood Police Department issued a trespassing warning against him so he couldn't be involved in youth football. I mean, that's crazy. Like, how do you make any kind of argument that Antonio Brown needs to be playing right now? I mean, yeah, the talent is undeniable, but damn, you got so much you got to deal with because at any moment it can blow up.
Yeah, he's a grenade.
Yeah, grenade. Lee?
I think he deserves to be in the league. I think he's going to be in the league. I think it's great for him to be in the league. Look. Bottom line is, Marv, Pittsburgh ate the money after he said he wanted to leave. He requested a trade from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh hadn't been the same since Antonio Brown left. And they won't be the same because they don't have that.
But they won the same with them when they had Roethlisberger. They had that trio that should have won the Super Bowl and they couldn't win because of him.
No, because of him. Marvin, look, Antonio Brown, look, yeah, don't get me wrong. Everything y'all said about behavior, this is past behavior, but I think he's going to come back a model citizen. You haven't heard much from him this entire offseason.
Ray, you better keep the drink on the sideline with him. You better keep the room with him.
Seattle's interested, great fit. Baltimore's interested, great fit. I think if he goes to Baltimore, it's a lock. It's a lock that Baltimore will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl if he goes, because here, Hollywood Brown on one side, Antonio on the other, those good tight ends down the middle. That's scary right there.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, but Lee, you're a football guy. How does that work? Antonio is a pass-catching wide receiver. He wants the football. He wants the football. He's not going nowhere to be a decoy or take the top off the defense to let Lamar do his thing. You don't think at some point that blow up Lamar and take some of his effectiveness away because he got to get the ball to him?
Because
come on, Lee. Come on, man.
This is what's going to happen this year with Baltimore. They're going to move. Teams are going to move the safety down in the box because they're afraid of Lamar's running. So the safety's going to come down, and he's going to be more of a presence inside the box, maybe even spy on Lamar. But if you have an Antonio Brown who you have to double cover, or he's going to eat you alive. And what does Lamar do? He throw the deep ball very well. And it's a match made in heaven. And then if you double cover Antonio, you got the tight end Andrews. You got Hollywood on the other side. Oh, that's scary. That's absolutely scary. The man deserves a 10. Free Antonio Brown. Free Antonio Brown. He deserves to play. Free Antonio Brown. He deserves to play. And I'm looking forward to it. I want the brother to play. Y'all get off that man back. Hey. When you see a person crying out for help, you help him. He might have a little ADD, DDC, or BBB. You and Raquel are kicking the man while he's down. He might need some medication. All I know is he's going to help somebody get to the Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying.
He's a bad boy, no doubt about that. I mean, like, he's his skill set, no doubt. But, man, he's scary on the other side, too, Lee. I mean, he's scary on the field. And if I had to put him in a jersey, I would love to see him in a Raven jersey because I agree with everything you said. But he is such a grenade. I mean, he can blow up anytime.
He's going and look, similar to what
he's going to kill Lamar's career.
The risk reward.
Oh.
If he doesn't work out, just cut him. Just cut him. Sign him to an incentive-laden contract and just cut him. But I think he'll be fine. I think the guy's ultra talented still today. You see him working out with all these quarterbacks in the offseason. People know. And he's going. Now, he might have to serve 2 or 3, maybe 4 game suspension, but I'll take 12 games of Antonio Brown any day.
All right.
Well said. All right, moving on. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to go to the NBA right now. The NBA agreed to allow players to wear jerseys and personalize social justice, social causes, charity messages, whatever it is that they feel like they want to bring attention to during the games. They are allowing players. What do you guys think about this? Do you think this is a good move? And what do you think this is going to mean moving forward? Lee, let's start with you with this.
Now, I'll be brief on this because Raquel be timing me on my comments. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I think look, how much of a difference it's going to make, I don't know, but it shows that the NBA continues down the track of being at the forefront of social justice issues. I like that. I like them keeping that out in the forefront. When players are fouled, Marv, they go to the line. Every time they go to the line, the commentator will make mention of whatever comment that's on their back or whatever charity or whatever social issue. That keeps it at the forefront with 25, 30 million people looking at the game. So I don't see any drawback to that. I commend both the NBA and the NBA Players Association for doing it. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Not much else to say. Yeah, it's not much else to say. I think it is a good idea. Doesn't hurt anything. Certainly shines a light on what's going on in our country. I think it's fine. I don't need to say much else. I agree with
I agree with you, Raquel and Lee. I think this is a no-brainer. I think it's going to bring awareness to causes that a lot of people maybe didn't know about, and they're going to start to follow or maybe give to just because their favorite player is pushing it or promoting it on their back. So this is good all the way around. And if there is a reason to come back and play, it is for something like this. Now, this changes how I feel about them actually playing, because this begins to start a conversation. It starts to put ideas out there. It starts to get charities and things that people don't know about out there. So for me, this is a good look, and I do commend the NBA. But let's see what the players do with it. I don't know what it is that they're going to be promoting or what kind of charities that they have, but I would love to see kind of what direction.
What you said is you don't want to see Magic City on the back of one of their jerseys. Huh?
See, I didn't want to say that, but thank you for saying it for me. I didn't want to.
No, you don't want to go down and see Magic City on the back. That's
it's a form of protesting. We just need to make sure that the demands make sense. It's certainly more protesting, and it's going to be on a very, very large platform. But what are the demands is really my question. Okay, so you're going to do this and what? Now what? Yeah. What is the, and there has to be a demand that follows a protest. There has to be a demand that follows, all these things that come with, Black Lives Matter. Okay, now what?
I think they're putting together a social justice platform, Raquel, and figuring out where the donations and how much money they're going to donate. So I think the NBA is headed down in a good direction, but I think it's a start. That was one of the criteria that Chris Paul and the NBA Players Association put as a prerequisite for playing. So I think they're going down the path, and I think hopefully soon we'll hear that. I know they're supposed to put it out before they start to actually go to the bubble. So, Lamont, you have
Nope, we're good to go.
Okay, yeah. And I agree with Raquel on that too. It's the fine print. That's what I want to see. I want to see what actually is going to come from this and what they're, really promoting and what kind of educational pieces, the things that they're doing for Black communities. I want to see what they're putting in place. Putting it on the court is great, but it's the action. It's what comes from it. So I agree with both of you. I think that I'd be really interested to see where it goes. But it's a great start. We got to start somewhere, and the NBA is a powerful league with some powerful players, a lot of reach. So this is definitely a move in the right direction. Moving forward, we're going to kind of switch gears again here. The Mississippi House and Senate passed a vote to remove the Confederate emblem from the state flag. The governor said that he would sign the bill into law. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about this move? I mean, maybe a little late, but what do you guys think about this?
It's about time.
Yeah. And he actually signed it into law, so
it's about time. I mean, Mississippi owes us that much. We don't need to go into lesson number 5 on all the things that have happened in Mississippi to our people. It's about time. I'm not going to praise them. I'm not going to give them this grand gesture. You're doing what's right, which we shouldn't have, again, to look at a man being hung in the middle of the street for over 8 minutes for you to do such a thing. It's the right thing to do, so they don't get any praise from me. But yet, it's about time.
Lee?
Yeah, for me, it goes back to the power that the players have, and I don't want these young athletes to ever forget that the power that they possess. And one thing that coronavirus has brought to light is the economic structure of the NCAA and these institutions, especially those Power 5 institutions, and how much the schools actually depend on the revenue that's generated. And so I want those players to understand, because the running back for Mississippi State, for Ole Miss, saying that I'm not going to play until that emblem is removed, it set a firestorm, because they've been trying to get that, being from Memphis and that area, they've been trying to get that emblem removed for a long time. It's been people debating on that. Football players saying, I'm not going to play, and then other student athletes similar, and then recruits, hey, that was what's moved the needle, and it showed the power of the athlete. So I love all of these stances that these athletes are taking. They need to keep that and understand the power that they have. That's why I always say they should organize, because they're at their strength, and they've been enlightened by the George Floyd thing, the George Floyd killing, not thing. They've been enlightened by that, and they have to continue to harness that and take that by the horn, because that's what caused this to happen. I agree, Raquel, way too late. Last State in the Union, it's a travesty, but at least they did it. But I look at it from a player's perspective, and how you're seeing the rise, something that I hope will never turn around, how these players are using their power as athletes.
Well, I kind of think back to when I was an athlete. It was a long time ago. Social media was nowhere to be found. And these social issues we would always talk about in the locker room, and the way that we felt about certain things, but we were always scared. It was always, I want to say something, but I don't want to say too much, because somebody else is in control of whether I play, whether I have an opportunity to make the league, whether I have an opportunity to make money to transcend generations for my family. But you always knew stuff wasn't right. We always saw things that were said. We would go on the road, like I told you the story about going to Mississippi and playing there. We always felt like, man, there's so much that we want to say. Even things that coaches would say that you would be like, damn, that was racist. And the coach doesn't know that what he said was offensive or racist. But you were always so scared as a group to come out, because they held your future. They had so much power about what you could do and what you couldn't do. So that's one good thing I love about social media today. It has empowered players. There's nothing that really can be hidden anymore. These coaches can't hide behind, not being called out. These things have to be addressed, and you get so many people behind it. I love that the players are now feeling empowered to be able to speak out. And I think that's what's going to force the change. Because if you let, some of these white coaches and stuff, they won't change nothing, because they eating good, they living good, they families, they getting generational wealth. They don't care. So I agree with you, Lee. Seeing the players now taking control of this and speaking out and realizing the power that they have to change their future, however they want to do it, and to be in circumstances where it's beneficial for them. This is really, really encouraging to see. But let's make no mistake about it too. In Mississippi, this was all dollars and cents. I mean, you know, the NCAA. Yeah, I mean, the NCAA said we not hosting no event. You can't come to nothing. You can't get none of the dollars associated with it unless you change that flag. So it took that, and players kind of saying that to get this done. But if it teaches us one thing and those kids one thing, like you said, Lee, look at the power and that you can harness and that you have, that none of us who played sports previously with the platforms they have today ever realized. So I'm happy to see this, and I'm looking forward to even more things kind of happening.
From the first show, you know, I
all right, very good.
Biggest way to affect.
Go ahead, Raquel.
To affect everyone, affect their pockets, affect the bottom line, and you'll get change. And I've been saying that from day one. If you want to see them change and respect us and do right by us, all we have to do is affect their bottom line. We're seeing it across the country, not just in sports, but in business. There are major chain businesses going out of business because Black people are no longer spending their dollars there. You have Black businesses that are now thriving because we are all of a sudden aware that we're Black. We're trending. I've been Black from day one. So, but if you affect their dollars, you affect the bottom.
It was something that you said. I want to ask you a question about, if I may. Yeah. So you said, do you feel that coaches, and Raquel, you chime in on this too, do you feel that because it's my contention that just like any segment of the population, we have a lot of racist coaches that are employed in the NCAA. And you know, how do you think with this new social justice reform that's going on, because you're hearing it already, all of these stories creep up about all of the racist treatment of athletes across the country. How do you think the dynamic of that is going to affect the colleges going forward? Because we know in the NFL, you know, the players got all the power, but in the colleges, the coaches got all the power. I'm just curious to see how you guys think about that.
I mean, it's definitely going to change the dynamics of college athletics, because before, like I said, when I played, they weren't worried about nothing. I mean, they could say whatever they want. They could treat you however they want. They could, you know, pretty much run you into the ground. And when you were done and your time was up, I don't know who you are, on to the next. I mean, there was nothing. They didn't feel any kind of fear for losing a job over anything that they did. And I know that for a fact because I played in it. I know. And I know some of my former teammates and guys that have played in the era that I played, and we know this is true. We all know this is true. So I think today it's going to start forcing coaches to be a little bit more educated about how they deal with Black athletes or athletes of color. I think it's going to force them to be a little more cognizant about the way that they coach. I mean, I would even say I would get coached differently than a white player got coached. Like when I think back on this now, it was, you know, just wear you down, do this, do that. And the white guy, even if he wasn't the best player on the team, it seemed like he would get coached and we would get told. So it was always a different dynamic. But I think you'll see it change because coaches have no choice at this point. You know, the landscape is changing, and they're either going to have to adapt or they won't exist. And we all know that they want to exist because there's too much money in this. So it's a good thing because they're going to have to adapt to be able to survive in this climate now.
Yeah. We do have a comment from YouTube, and it was from Kevin. And he says, I think it's great that the flag was taken down. Now, I also have just something that I want to add to this. I think it's amazing when people really begin to understand who they are. And that has always been the plight. That's always been the situation for the oppressor, because the idea was to keep you blind to just how magnificent you are and what you actually bring to the table, and make you think that you're dependent on me and what I do versus what it is that you do. And so this realization that people have now that, wait a minute, I do have something to say. I do bring something to the table. This is why I believe that the platform of sports is so important, and athletes need to covet that. Athletes really need to look at that platform that they have in high regard. Look at what happened with Kaepernick. Yes, they took his career, but now look at what's happening. The message was put out there. Was put out there. Now, he was just by himself. He was one man by himself. But if that was the aggregate, if all of the players band together with that, things would have been different. Things would have been very different.
Absolutely.
So, and it transcends sports. It goes, even as Raquel said, business and so many other facets of our life. So I'm glad that people are finally waking up and realizing just who they are.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Marv,
Well
I'll
said,
add
Andre.
what you said a little. One of the things that I also think is going to happen is those coaches that are racist and coaching Black players differently than they're coaching white players, they're going to be exposed. And that is the big word here, exposure. And
Right.
I would venture off to say it'll open up doors for Black coaches. It'll open up some doors for some other guys to step in that may have not traditionally opened if we did not have all of this happen. So I think exposure is going to be huge, and it is better to know the devil that you're dealing with than not know. So I think it's going to be great. I think the exposure and the emphasis that you'll see on those coaches that are racist, now kids don't have to be in fear like they were before, because they have a whole nation behind them and cheering for them and wanting them to be treated fairly. But more importantly, I do think it's going to open some doors up for Black coaches to get the chance that they would have not gotten before.
Yeah. Yeah, well said, Raquel. Very good point. Absolutely. And that moves us into our next topic, which is, pretty apropos for what we're talking about. Kansas State football players are boycotting all football-related activities unless the university takes action against the student who put out the offensive tweets, of course, about George Floyd. The student athletes want the university to create policies that would allow a student to be expelled for openly racist, threatening, or disrespectful actions. What do you think about what the student athletes are demanding, and where we go with this? Raquel, I see you shaking your head, so I'm gonna let you chime in on this one first.
It goes back to our conversation about the quarterbacks. White quarterback push you on the ground, throw his players around, cuss the coach out. Black quarterbacks gotta say yes sir, and follow all these rules that we have created. Our people, Kevin, we've created this space, but we haven't created the space for, the white athlete, but we want the Black athlete to do something different. For the white students, that's all the Black kids are saying. Hey, there should be some repercussion, because if I say, excuse my French, cracker, honky, you're going to do something to me. I have to pay a price if I say that. But for so long, our peers have been saying things as such about, hey, he's drug free for a month. What the? Yeah, it doesn't justify what happened to the man. I don't care if he was high, drunk. It doesn't matter. It does not justify the means to the end that we saw. Now, I'm a God-fearing woman, and I'll say this. George was in position to give us this position we have right now. He was in position, so it's perfectly planned. I don't think it's a mistake. It was tough for us to see it, but the plan is so perfectly designed that now we're here having this conversation. And that had not happened, we wouldn't even be talking about the injustice that Black athletes are facing, the injustice that Black coaches are facing, or not the lack of opportunities that we get. So for those white students, I'm not going to throw another football for you. Again, I'm going to affect your bottom line, Massa. I'm not going to be your horse today, Massa, because you're going to treat us right, because you need me. You need me more than I need you. And if we got a conglomerate of wealthy Black people to come together, we could create our own league. Let's be very clear. And they're going to still watch. We can get the same TV time. We make up the sport. There's no sport without us. So again, to Lee's point, the power that these young people have, it's so beautiful. It is an amazing thing to watch. And there's no greater time than right now to be Black. And I think for those athletes and those individuals that are standing up saying, hey, you're going to do something, or else. And that's the type of, I think, and I'm choosing my words careful because I don't want to say something to offend anyone, but that is what has hung over our heads and our necks for a long time. And now we're just in the game too. We're playing too.
Yeah. Well said, Raquel. Before you go, Lee, I'm just going to add a little bit to that. I think it's our responsibility to just harness and support young athletes and a younger generation and what we're seeing now. My time has passed in terms of being an athlete and all that kind of stuff, but I do have experiences that I think a lot of players who are playing today can learn from and also build upon and not make the same mistakes that some of us made in the past. But there are some interesting things that came from some of their demands also, that I don't think a lot of things have been talked about in terms of boosters, funneling money back in the community to support community education, building diversity in communities. I think that's a big thing. And these are things when I was young, I never would have thought about demanding. They're demanding diversity, inclusion training for athletes. So this isn't just for the Black athletes, for the white athletes that play with Black athletes to learn and to be able to cultivate those relationships on a different level. They're talking about having monthly town halls to have discussions, recruiting applicants from different diverse backgrounds for staffing and coaching positions, even from, media people that you see doing stats during the games. All these positions that can create jobs for people of color that traditionally we don't have. They want to utilize basketball home games for Black Lives Matter movements. I mean, that's huge on a college campus to be able to have a Black Lives Matter movement during a college basketball game or a football game. You know how much notoriety and how much that would bring to a school. And even the biggest one for me that I never thought would be as important, but this is one of their main demands. They want transportation provided for all student athletes to vote.
Beautiful.
That's the game changer to me. Beautiful. Like to say that's where the change comes, because if we want to see the policies and the procedures that we need to move forward, we got to vote, and we got to vote the people who have our interests at heart. And for these young student athletes to kind of put that into their platform as well, like we want to be able to go and vote. This is important to us. We're going to pull all our people to vote, and we want you to take us to vote. Like that was pretty powerful to me. So I like where they're going with this, but I'm just encouraged by the younger generation, especially some of these student athletes and the way they're speaking up right now.
Yeah. Well said. And Raquel, I'm a little torn on this from one perspective though. And certainly what you and Raquel said, I agree 100%. But the way I grew up, a bigot is a bigot, a racist is a racist. I like to face and know the people that are racist straight on. I like for them to identify themselves. I don't know from the player's perspective, or even from any student on campus, do we want to curtail their freedom of speech? He said something that's reprehensible. Identify him. Let people know him for who he is. But do we want to start putting criterion on what people say and curtail their freedom of speech? That's where I look at it, and I'm sort of torn with that. Do you want to expel for saying that? I don't know. I would identify him. I love the fact that from the administration perspective, now you're saying we need to include Black history and social justice within our curriculum. If that comes from that, that's beautiful. I don't really care that the guy said that. I don't know if he should be expelled. He has freedom of speech. He can say what he said, whatever he wants to say. But it's the administration's job, right, to make sure that that's not representative of who the school is. And so by all the things that you're saying, Marvin, is what I think comes out of that. So I think the end result from what the school does is the most important thing to me. Whether the guy's expelled or not, and putting that policy in, I think a person could challenge that in court anyway and possibly be readmitted anyway, because he does have freedom of speech. So I'm not really caring that much about it, but the end result for me is the best thing, and all the things that you said.
Yeah, very well. Just moving forward, our last topic here. On June 15th, an attorney on behalf of two current college football players filed a federal antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA and Power Five conferences, seeking it to be a class action lawsuit. Basically, the NIL rules and potential athletes' share of television rights and social media earnings the players would have or have received. What do you guys think about this class action lawsuit that is coming on behalf of these two football players, and where do you think it goes? Lee, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah, to me, that's powerful. I think it could set off something. First of all, from the perspective of dealing with the NCAA in the name, image, and likeness, because the NCAA wants Congress to set certain rules that all of NCAA should play by. There should not be any rules. If Marvin Orange wants to go and make money off of his name, or Raquel Thomas wants to do it, you're allowed to do that. So there's no pecking order for the best player. They should be able to make as much money as they possibly can. I think what the NCAA has always done, and that's why they have this thick book, is they try to create rules to keep them from themselves, from the boosters, and it always affected the student athlete. So that's the first thing. And this thing, if they win this suit, and if it's a class action suit, which means damages can be awarded 3 times up to whatever the jury what they're asking for, it's over. It's over. It sets up a new model for collegiate sports, and it would be huge for players. Because right now, Marv, you know as well as I do, if they set aside $20,000, $30,000 for these players, they'll have $5-6 million in their budget. They can play these players. They don't want to do it. They want the free labor. It's indentured servitude, in my opinion. They want the free labor, and that's what's going on now. They can do it because we said it last week. These athletic budgets, they net $65-75 million. So take $5 million and pay the players. So this is a huge lawsuit. And I'm going to track it very closely, because if the players win, and certainly if they make it a class action suit, man, that's going to be tremendous. Think about these huge TV contracts, and think about the NCAA being an $8 billion entity. That's huge for the players going forward.
Yeah, I mean, well said, Lee. There's not much more to add, but I mean, for too long, the NCAA, the bylaws, the Constitution, the rules of the NCAA, they've governed too many aspects of college sports for just way too long. And I think most of us who've been part of it, we know that these rules and these bylaws are outdated, they're unnecessary, and they're really unlawful and keeping athletes from the compensation that is rightfully there. So I agree with you. I think this is huge. And if it does become a class action suit, I mean, this is going to, and we've said this before, this is going to change the landscape. It's going to change the way that we view college athletes and college sports. So I am, like yourself, Lee, I'm going to watch this one closely, because I think this has the potential to be beyond huge. So I'm really interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on this. Like Lee said, it's free labor. Doesn't make sense. $8 billion industry. You have kids that can't buy personal items. There certainly can be a budget created. They can't eat sometimes. They don't have the things they need, and so there's no doubt that they can create a budget and pay these kids, and it should be done without having to file a class action lawsuit. So I'm with you guys. I'm hoping that they win. I'm hoping that they get their due, because there's tons of money being made off of them while they can't eat. And that's the reality of the top basketball player on the team, the top football player on the team. That's his and her reality, period. And I don't think they think about our kids in that way. When we go to college, we're not coming from picket fences. We're not coming from, 2-parent homes. So we have a struggle that they frankly don't understand, and they don't care. As long as we are there to give them their free labor, make them money, they just want us to dribble and shut up, throw the football, shut up. So I'm with you guys. I'm hoping that this turns out on the right side for the athletes, and they all get their due.
Absolutely. Well said.
Well, just think about it, Mark. You had to wear whatever shoes Alabama told you to wear. You wore everything with Nike or whatever company you're working with, and then the coach makes $2 to $3 million off of all of y'all wearing Nike stuff. You don't get a cent, and you're the one wearing all the apparel. How crazy is that? And you can't even get a piece of the pie. And these coaches sometimes, when they sign with these huge shoe companies, we read the one about UCLA and Adidas trying to sue them to get their money back because they said, $175 million. You know, all this big, and the coach gets $6 million a year. It's ridiculous, and you can't get a cent off of that. Come on, man.
I'll tell you what, guys, and this is, you know, one step down. We're talking about college. AAU sports is the thing going on, especially in basketball. Like, if you look at some of our top players in the country, AAU coaches are getting paid. They're getting contracts from Nike, Adidas, and they're doing the same things in retrospect to high school kids, middle school kids, the prospects that are going into the league. So this thing is huge. Like, a lot of the issues that I see just here in the state of South Carolina with talented players. But that's a can of worms.
That's a great point, Raquel.
Because I'm in that arena, I'm in that circle, and I'm seeing the dollars that are being filtered, and parents need to be more aware of what's going on with their kids at the high school level and what's going on with their coaches and why their coaches are pushing them this way and that way, because the coaches are getting paid. Nike, Adidas, they're paying AAU coaches now. So
absolutely they are.
There's a whole nother thing that's happening before they even get to college. So this thing could be just huge. And you'll start to see it trickle down to the AAU sports.
It's already there. I coach AAU in Seattle and in the Memphis and Arkansas area. And the major, I'm talking about the top level of AAU, is ran by the shoe companies. That's what it is. It's ran by the UIBL and all that. It's ran by the shoe companies, and it's big business. And these kids are again, they're trying to get these kids to steer them towards colleges. It's some of what we talked about last week. Steer them towards colleges, and then get them to sign with them with their shoe companies. It's exploitation at its very best, and that's the brainwashing of our kids and our parents. It starts as young as in the 7th, 8th grade, and it trickles up. And we have to educate our parents going forward to the power that they have and see how they're being used. So absolutely.
Yeah. The parents are also a part of the issue when you talk about AAU sports. They are starting to be hip to what's going on. And that's a whole nother can of worms, guys, that we have to talk about at some point on the show.
Yeah.
We've had some instances right here in our state with some of the greatest players in the state of South Carolina get caught up in AAU mess, not go to college, not make it to the league because of all the broken rules that the AAU coach has done, that affects a high school kid that didn't know any better, parent that didn't know any better, and the kid ends up losing because of the coaches. So that's a topic we have to cover at some point.
Absolutely. Very good point, Raquel. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a troubled spot right now, but that's a very good point. We do need to cover that later. But sadly, you guys, this is the saddest time of the day. We've come to that point in time where we gotta close things up. Good show today, though. Some good topics, and we touched on some things that I think we really wanted to touch on. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Please do Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, like us. You guys know the drill. Go out there, subscribe. Yeah, absolutely. I think we will be off on Saturday. We won't be doing a show this coming up Saturday, but we will resume as regularly scheduled next Wednesday. So for Raquel M.R. Thomas, Mr. Lee Jones, Mr. LP, keeping it tight as always. I'm Marvin Orange. I appreciate everybody joining us at After the Buzzer Sports Podcast, and we will see you guys next week. Have a blessed night.